Hey people, welcome to the Pathfinder Podcast, and on today's episode I am with acoustic artist Leon C. from Southampton, England. On this episode we talk about his career, collaborations and his latest single, I Was Meant to Love, along with lots more. Hope you enjoy. Hey Leon, how are you?
I'm well, and you?
I'm really good, thanks. Tell us about yourself along with your career from the beginnings up to where you are today.
Oh, that's a long time. Well, 3 years isn't that long to most, but I started off in 2016, just trying to get gigs really. Nothing much happening. I found I like to write songs and that was fun. And I started off writing. Played at quite a few open mics, got my name in down south and sort of with the promoters and sort of made a big effort to play lots and lots of gigs. And now I'm sort of, and since then it's sort of just grown. I've played more and more gigs. We've recorded an album at my producer's studio, which was a great experience and has been great fun, and we've been working on more since, and then through this year it's just sort of grown and grown, played more and more gigs, had some pretty cool opportunities, and done my second tour as well since then, so yeah.
Busy, which is always a good thing.
Indeed, for sure.
So tell us about the scene from Southampton, where you began up to that, and obviously forwarding to Birmingham. What's the experiences you've taken from both places, the differences and the similarities?
Yeah, I think Southampton is small, firstly, so it's not as big as Birmingham. Birmingham's a lot more split up, and the scene down there is, I think it's a lot stronger for sort of the indie folk artists, because it's a predominant genre down there and a lot of people like it, and there's a lot of nights that support it that I didn't find up here. But I did find that starting off somewhere like Southampton was ideal, because you learn the trade really well, because all of the other artists. They're really easy to find, they're not far away, and all the sort of guys with more experience are there to give you advice. And coming up to Birmingham was like a logical step with university, and also with the size of the scene, because in Birmingham it seems to be quite split. There's not so many joins, and a lot of different genres as well. Like a lot more genres play around here, and also the acoustic scene isn't as strong. There aren't as many nights. Like, for example, a night that closed was this night called the Maple Leaf Lounge Sessions down in Southampton. That ran every other week, and they had 3 acoustic artists, and then that closed. But then straight away another one popped up to replace it, because it was in demand and people wanted it. So I guess it's just a lot less acoustic in Birmingham. It's a little bit harder to find your feet as a singer-songwriter, but once you do, I've noticed that the size of it and the efficiency of it and the amount of ability to network, and I've learnt so much about the actual business being up here, because it's a lot less relaxed than it is in Birmingham, but in a good way, I think. Yeah, for sure. So
how did you get your foot in the door after you were saying that it's definitely a bit harder to get into than Southampton?
Well, in some ways, if you were to look at it from just a point and say, well, how long did it take for you to start off in Southampton, and how long did it take for you to start off in Birmingham, you go, okay, it was a really short time up here. I think, compared to starting off in Southampton, but I think the access to promoters requires a bit more digging here to find the right guys, the guys whose gigs you want to play and whose audiences are suitable for you. Do you know what I mean? And trying to find that was the toughest bit. But of course, it just turns out to be a thing of like you go to a gig or you go to an open mic, you chat to some people, you get to know them, you know, you forward links. A lovely lady called Precious helped me out, and she knew a bunch of people to get in touch with. And Jane Burness set me up with gigs last year as part of Where to Be Seen. I played some gigs. I played a gig up in Wolverhampton for Rob Fellows. And I met him at the Digbeth Community Garden gigs last year, and places like Shantytown also set me up, you know. So it's just been like a case of just going around chatting to people, getting to know them, understanding, you know, what they do, understanding the nights and applying for the right nights, and just, you know, making friends basically. All the promoters I hope like me, and well, because I certainly do like them, and they're all lovely people, the ones I've worked with. Yeah.
Which is that networking is the reason why we're doing this right now.
Yeah.
I went to that little the jazz cafe, and then
oh yeah,
got speaking to you.
Oh gosh.
And then we got talking about university.
Yeah.
And then there's like a Wednesday, I think it were.
Yeah.
And then I said, I do that music technology and stuff. And you're like, well, I'll do a gig on Friday. I need a sound guy. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it.
No, yeah, for sure. That was a nice little gig. It was times have changed. It feels it's only been a year. Times have changed. You've graduated, and it's
crazy.
It's cool. It's
what
cool.
happens in a short space of time.
Exactly. No, for sure. No. Yeah.
What got you into music then? Like any specific moment?
Whew. Okay, so I've always liked music. I used to sing the Beatles as a young child, badly, and I've always liked them. So it's always been like at least a haunt on my life, something I really enjoy. And I went to so I think it was strange. I've had, for the past 3 years since I started writing and stuff, I've had this stupid drive to do it. And it all started after I left secondary school. I started sort of easing into a healthier state of mind afterwards, basically, and becoming more confident in myself. And come October, I sort of had this need to go and perform. I'd performed before, in some cases it hadn't gone very well, and had been a bit like, off. And I went on and, you know, had a very nervous but very, very nice performance at this open mic at a venue called the Dolphin in 2016. And from then on, that was sort of my entry point into music. And the music I was writing back then was sort of really inspired by Bob Dylan, which was introduced to me by my father, and also people like Passenger and people like a guy called JJ Pistolet, who's now who's Justin Hayward, who's now the lead singer of the Vaccines, and they sort of really got me into it, and they were like the guys who made me want to write songs as opposed to, you know, just sing them. And also, I guess I can also mention that I broke my arm in summer of 2016, and I had a reason to play guitar, and I really found I enjoyed it playing those sort of songs as opposed to the classical guitar I was doing.
Nice.
Yeah. There's a comprehensive answer.
So what's the main influences to your sound, and how does it dictate the direction you tend to go in?
Influences are, I don't know. So it's safe to say that there's sort of a main three, which is Bob Dylan, Townes Van Zandt, and Kevin Morby. And then of course you have around that is, I take a lot of influence and love for the 60s folk revival, so you can include Joan Baez, Leonard Cohen, Dave Van Ronk into that mixture. You can add in more of the 70s sort of Texan country folk scene that erupted down in Texas. Surprise, surprise. So Guy Clark and people like that. And then also the modern indie folk artists I've listened to all the way growing up, and they've really, like the indie folk and the indie rock has really influenced it. And now I'm getting a lot more influences also from, strangely, like old school pop music and indie rock bands. This record that I'm sure we'll talk about later was not written in the same way that future records we've recorded, teaser has been recorded, and like those, so there's a lot of influence. The music seems to be constantly evolving, and it's nice. But yeah, the influences come from a wide variety of angles and have changed over time for sure.
Nice. It's always good to keep it evolving and changing up rather than being like static and writing the same song like time and time again.
No, for sure. And I don't like people say what's your genre, or whenever I'm releasing getting in touch to people for press releases, I'm like, I don't know what to put, and I put down contemporary folk, but I don't want to limit myself to that, because what if one day I just want to sing jazz? You know what I mean? But I suppose you've got to brand yourself, you know, and I'm sure, but hey, we'll see how it goes. I'm trying to just keep it fluid and keep authentic and honest to myself.
That's the main thing. Like, people like released an album of like their first album, let's say, and like Mumford & Sons, so they released their first album with like a big folkier sound to it, and then after that they've gone more electric, and everyone's like, what? You're a folk band? And it's like, well, we're not. Our first album was.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean we're a folk band.
It's just much like Dylan Gun Electric, isn't it, as well, and that sort of thing. But people will always... People just have different tastes, I've noticed, and some people, you know, the acoustic stuff will be for them, and I think if a band changes, it's actually quite and they go for a new sound. It's almost constructive, because it means you might lose some fans, but you build up a new one, you know,
exactly.
And you can also like, and some will stay. Some will be like, this music's great. This hits my intersection in my ideas, and I think it's a really great thing, and it shouldn't be frowned upon, you know, like, of course it's gutting when you don't like it, but yeah, you still got their old music.
Yeah, because that's what I mean, that's what bugs me about rock music. Like, there's so many, like Bring Me the Horizon and stuff, they were like really heavy, and they had their fans back then, and last 2 or 3 records they've changed their sound to more commercial, and everyone's like, oh, you need to go back to this sound, blah blah blah, you've gone to a pop band and blah and stuff, and then whinging and complaining about it. But because of that, they've got so many more fans, and they've gone to such bigger venues and stadiums, and obviously they've lost fans, but they've gained so many more because of that.
Yeah, I think also it's sort of it's interesting though, you bring up the like idea of the going towards pop, because I guess some of their fans think they're selling out, but
yeah,
I another argument I considered was that you have like if you feel like this is what you want to do, then you should do it. And if you can write naturally and authentically, then go for it. You know, if pop is something that you've understood and can write well, why not write it?
Yeah, if you're not like, oh, I feel the need to write pop music, you know, and then you might be selling out. But if you literally just feel like writing it, why not? If it makes you happy, then write it for yourself. If you write it for the fans, then you're probably going to get to a point where you just like fed up and be like, this is not me. Yeah,
for sure. No, I agree. Yeah.
So you talking about your album and stuff a bit earlier. So let's talk about like the single like you've got coming out soon. So what's the name and the inspiration lyrically and musically behind it?
It's called I Was Meant to Love, and it's a song written about a part of time at university last year. And I just moved in, and it was sort of November-ish, and there was a lot going on, and my head, you know, was all over the place. I hadn't written a song for like a good song that I liked for a good couple of months, and it was all feeling a bit odd. And I was doing the uni stuff and having a good time, but it just didn't seem to fit, and I was very confused as in a stage of quite intense personal development, and after writing that song ended up being quite a big release of emotion, of the negative stuff that was there, and an understanding of like the cynicism that lived inside of me that I'd let grow. And it's sort of this, and it sort of turned into this very... It's quite an odd song when you listen to it as well, because when I write, I don't really think too much about the song. And what I ended up doing is writing something that's quite melancholy and not particularly bright and jumpy, but also making a piece that then has this sort of brightness in the music and the arrangement. And it was really nice when my producer and I just embraced that lightness in the thing, and you end up with this sort of strange balance, you know. You've got those bright acoustic guitar fills, you've got the bright tone of the guitar, but it's layered with this sort of level of melancholy, which almost helps us create this sense of like confusion, because it's not the same sort of emotions being felt. And inspirations wise, it was really that's a real song that digs into the indie folk genre for sure, and the modern indie folk genre, like in arrangement it's taking ideas from Passenger and his music, and taking ideas from the Lumineers, and also some of my producer Ollie Robinson, he really likes pop rock, and he threw some little bits on the guitar in, and he likes his indie pop as well. Sorry, not indie pop, pop folk, and that all went in, and we ended up with this like little mixing bowl of a song. So it's a really, I like it. I think it's a nice little tune, and yeah, that's sort of the influence behind it. And that's why it was written.
So you were talking about the writing aspect of it and him adding his ideas. How was the overall like recording process? Like, what's your experiences of that?
So I've recorded with Ollie in several ways. I've recorded demos just with a couple of mics, and we've recorded stuff tracked, and we've recorded stuff with a lot of mics, and we've recorded stuff on MIDI and recorded stuff on, all this stuff. And this one was really strange because it's a home recording for the microphone. So I used the microphone I'm recording this on my end, and I just tracked my acoustic guitar and vocals and sent it over to him, and he mixed and mastered it at Abbey Road, no less, where he was studying. And then quite often when we've recorded, so in my debut album Please, I was very much there, and I was next to him as we worked through these songs, and we came up with some great ideas, and it was a really nice process. But with this particular song, I sort of said, well, I want organ, cello, a little bit of drums, maybe some piano, see what you do. He goes off, arranges this piece, sends it back to me, says, I've thrown in some electric guitar and a kick drum. Could I also suggest this and this? And I go, yeah, that's a good idea. Can you also change up these little bits? And he goes, yeah, sure, no problem. And we sort of work through these versions and eventually get to something we really like. And I remember he added cymbals into the ending instrumental, and I called him up and I said, "This is not the one. This is not gonna be it. You need to take these out." And he was like very kind. And Ollie and I have been working together for 2 years, we realised, and we've got such a good working relationship, such a good friendship. So him and his company, Armistice Records, are great to work with because he's just so flexible and he wants to make the tune really great. So he's happy to work through iterations of it before he makes a final mix and master.
How did you two meet then? Because it sounds like you got a great partnership.
Yeah, no, we met at college, so back home in South. He's from Winchester as well, and I went to college at Peter Simmons, and I knew his girlfriend at the time, and she introduced me to him, and we had a great time, and he just invited me to record, and I really enjoyed working with him, and it was an opportunity to record with someone also who had the same sort of drive as me and wanted to do something in the music, and it was like... And he was just great. He's just a great character and a really great guy, and he knows his stuff, and he makes good sounds and really backs me up well. And he's just a pleasure to work with. So from then on, it just sort of grew. Yeah. Nice.
Like, you always want to work with someone who's got the same drive and actually able to help you out with your music, and rather than just someone who's someone who's not really that interested and just sees you as I can make a few quid from this guy.
Yeah, no. Well, I'm sure he's seen that at least a couple of times. He's a very entrepreneurial guy. No, I'm joking. But he's a very entrepreneurial guy, and he's a good laugh. And I think just the fact that we can go to the pub and have a couple of drinks is the best. But I remember I went home over summer, and I was due to go soon, and we just met up. I said, we've done a lot of recording. We haven't actually gone out for a pint or two, and we did, and we got a nice email through from BBC Introducing, and we were sat in this pub with 2 craft ales, and we both went, "Hey, yeah, let's go, we got it!"
Wow.
And yeah, no, he's great. He's fantastic.
That's amazing.
I hope his ego feels very good now that I've just stroked it on this podcast.
I think I would literally scream the pub down if I got an email from BBC saying about my song. I would have been like, "That's BBC." Yeah. Oh my god.
Amusingly, his tolerance is much higher than mine, so he was telling me to calm down a bit. But no, lovely bloke.
Good. So your material that you've been writing over the years, is there much difference from that to the stuff that you're releasing now?
Well, the writing process is the same. The tunes that come to my head will hopefully always be different. I think the arranging is what's going to change the most, and what is changing the most. Because the arrangement is, as a singer-songwriter, you just pick up your acoustic guitar and you go. And you just get it out. You just have have a nice song, and you get this nice little tune, and it's enjoyable in its own. But the arrangement is where I find most of my influences come in, and that's when I can really start to mould a song into something new. And for sure, the arrangement will always change as I just get different influences. Because new artists are always going to come through the door. Do you know what I mean?
Oh yeah, exactly. Like obviously you get older, you get life experience, and like you said, new artists come through, new inspirations and new instruments being used, and that always help you out and inspire you to maybe experiment with new instruments and that create new sounds and so on.
No, without a doubt.
Cool. So where can we find your music and everything that people need to know?
It's all online everywhere. At least I hope the distributor's putting it everywhere. So Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Amazon Music, YouTube Music under Leon C. And that's just Leon and then the letter C. And then if you want to follow my gigs and what I do, there's a gig page. There's a gig website called leoncmusic.co.uk, a Facebook page that's Leon C Music, and an Instagram, also Leon C Music, and a Twitter, also Leon C Music.
I never knew you had a Twitter. I may have to follow that myself.
That is that's where I sort of cut free of the chains of the Leon C-ness. It's a little bit of a laugh.
Nice.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think unless there's anything you would like to add, we can finish that there.
No, that was wonderful. Thank you very much, Danny.
Awesome. That's great to have a chat.
Cheers. Thank you.